Near the microphone.
Good evening, everybody. Today is December 20th, 2021. This is our last council meeting this year in year 2021. If you would all please rise, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I have got, ladies and gentlemen, a Christmas Carol proclamation that I'm going to read. Whereas is beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and as we get ready to rock around the Christmas tree, it's appropriate to share 12 facts of Christmas for this wonderful Christmas time. And whereas 'twas a silent night in 280 AD when St. Nicholas was born, and he would travel to give the poor, the sick, and the children throughout the most wonderful time of the year. And whereas St. Nicholas put golden stockings that were hung by the chimney with care, today this tradition is accompanied by children writing letters to Santa saying, "All I want for Christmas is," and whereas the name Santa Claus was derived from the Dutch nickname Sinterklaas, shortened to Sint Nicholas, Dutch for Saint Nicholas. And whereas in 1822, 'twas the night before Christmas was told and described Santa as being a jolly old elf and ascended chimneys with a nod of his head after he left toys for the children around the old Christmas tree. And whereas in 1850, Jingle Bells was composed for celebrating the annual sleigh races around Thanksgiving in Medford, Massachusetts, since then, families around the world celebrate Holly Jolly Christmas and Jingle Bell Rock. And whereas in 1881, drawings of Santa was found depicting a rotund, cheerful man with a full white beard wearing a red suit trimmed with white fur and a sack of toys for children in a winter wonderland. And whereas in 1927, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade began, and children and adults alike still line up today saying, "Here comes Santa Claus." And whereas in 1939, young Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer emerged and since then has been translated into 25 different languages and made into a movie bringing joy to the world. However, it is still a mystery as to how Grandma got ran over by a reindeer. Whereas in 1941, the little drummer boy shared his music to baby Jesus away in the manger. On the same O Holy Night, that a little lamb asked a shepherd boy, "Do you hear what I hear?" And whereas in 1950, during a blue Christmas season, Frosty the Snowman made his debut. The children dressed him up with a corncob pipe, a button nose, and eyes made out of coal. And whereas health experts have determined that you're a mean one, Mr. COVID, Santa Claus and his reindeer are immune from COVID-19. So go tell it on the mountain that Santa can safely visit homes all around and across the Palouse this holiday season. And whereas our city staff will be ready to clear the roads for your safe travels, and therefore I say, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Tell your family members I'll be home for Christmas, since last Christmas we may not have been able to do so. Now, therefore, I, Bill Lambert, the mayor of the city of Moscow, do hereby proclaim Christmas time is here in the little town of Moscow, and I urge all citizens to deck the halls and have yourself a merry little Christmas. For Santa Claus is coming to town. From all of us here at the city, we wish you a Merry Christmas. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll move on to the consent agenda.
I would like to move approval of the consent agenda. I can't think of a song to go with that.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Gina or a motion by Art and a second by Gina to approve the consent agenda as is stated. I will start the roll with Ann.
Aye.
Brandy.
Aye.
Art.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
And Gina.
Aye.
Okay. Staff recognition report. Gary, do you have anything for us this evening, sir?
No, sir.
Mayor's appointments. I have 3 reappointments this evening for council's consideration. We've got Scott Gropp, Planning and Zoning, expiration 12/31/2026. Aaron Johnson, Moscow Arts Commission, expiration 12/31/2025. And Mark Beauchamp, Urban Renewal Agency, expiration 12/31/2026. And I would entertain a motion to approve this slate of candidates.
I move approval of the slate of candidates.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Art and a second by Sandra to approve these 3 reappointments. I'll start with Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Art,
Aye.
Brandy,
Aye.
and Ann.
Aye.
Okay, well, very good. Those 3 are here, and I know we have some here. We got Mark Beauchamp from Urban Renewal Agency. Mark, would you like to get up and say a few words in front of us? Tell us hi.
I'll just say thank you, because that's very kind of you to be willing to consider me for a reappointment. The year that I got to spend on the Urban Renewal Agency with you, Brandy, and you, Art, was enlightening and probably the most exciting years the URA has ever had. At least everybody told me that. So I have enjoyed my time, and I'm very much looking forward to a profitable and well thought out attempt at bringing urban renewal to the parts of Moscow that haven't been renewed. But whatever few parts there are still left, I look forward to digging in and working on in the next 5 years. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Do we have, I know Scott's not here. Is Aaron here by chance? Nope. Well, Mark, the folks that serve on our commissions are a very big deal to me as a mayor, as well as this council up here, because we've got literally hundreds of volunteers that do this and spend their time and efforts on commissions, taken away from their families. However, our community could not be a community with all that, without that volunteerism. So we look forward and we appreciate all the efforts that those on these commissions do, because it's extra work for them. And I constantly encourage people to get involved with them. That's part of all of us here in the city that we should do sometime or another, with some, with some reason, of course, behind it. But thank you for your service to that commission. Okay, item number 4, public comment. This is where we allow folks to speak and tell us what's on their mind. We do this for 15 minutes, as long as it's not on this evening's agenda or something that is in front of Planning and Zoning or the Board of Adjustment. Please come on up, give us your name, and tell us what's on your mind. This is the last one for this year, so. Okay, well, we'll move on. I'm going to have fun tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the last major meeting I'm going to run, so I'm going to enjoy myself. So I hope you in the audience enjoy yourselves as well as I'm enjoying mine. And so far, I'm having a really terrific time, as you can all tell. Okay, well, with that, we'll move on to the Government Finance Officers Association Award presentation by Gary Reedner. And of course, we have Sarah Banks with us this evening. Gary, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. And if I could have our Finance Director, Sarah Banks, and our Assistant Finance Director, Renee Tack, come up and join me at the podium. I'm happy to come before you for the 18th time in a row for the City of Moscow as we receive it's called the ACFR Award now, for the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020. Our report has met the requirements to be awarded GFOA, that's the Government Finance Officers Association, Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The GFOA established the Certificate of Achievement. God, it must be my last meeting too. Excellence in Financial Reporting Program in 1945 to encourage and assist state and local governments to go beyond the minimum requirements of generally accepted accounting principles to prepare annual comprehensive financial reports that evidence the spirit of transparency and full disclosure, and then to recognize the individual governments that succeed in achieving that goal. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting. So I want to congratulate Sarah and Renee does a lot of the heavy lifting on the ACFR. So congratulations, and for the 18th time.
Thank you.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council. So I think this year is especially exciting for us just because though this is the 18th year, there was a lot of work that was put in all around. During this CAFR, we had a lot more help from the outside. We had a lot of collaborative work actually between council with staff. Renee, this was her first full audit actually that she handled by herself. And she did a fabulous job making sure that we were able to receive this award. And another piece of this that's also so special is we were pretty stressed on when this was going to come in because they were very delayed, which, you know, when things are delayed, you can get a little concerned that there might be something wrong. But lo and behold, we finally got the report, and we were really glad that we're able to celebrate this with you, Mayor, and Gary for your last time. And so it just makes that much more special. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. How about a few words from Renee? Renee, come on.
I would just kind of echo what Sarah said. It's really a collaborative effort. We try to pull all the information from all the sources we can. Everybody's always super helpful and get us things when we need them to get everything done on time. But it's just, like I said, just a big team effort to make sure that we get this through every year.
Very nice. Well, Sarah and Renee, your team has done an excellent job in our finance department. I've been very, very proud of the work and the efforts that you've done. We've changed softwares. We've done a bunch of different things. And you guys have adapted so well to that. And for those out there, ladies and gentlemen, that don't know this, we always have an independent audit of our books every single year. And those turn out very, very good. And to make certain that nobody's running off with their monies and they're safe for their citizens, these two ladies right here do a wonderful job of making sure that happens. And with that, thank you. And so again, congratulations. Okay, item number 6, City of Moscow's American Rescue Plan Act Small Business and Nonprofit COVID-19 Recovery Grants Program. We have Elisa Anderson with us this evening. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. I'm not sure which button I'm pushing here.
Well, just start pushing them. And I don't know which ones to push either, so I'm not challenged. But
Technology challenge.
Yeah, quick, before she pushes.
see how Corey's good too, and he hears the mayor talk like that, immediately came through the door to help. So,
Good job. That's your job. Yeah.
Hold down the thing.
This one? Yeah. It's not doing it. Harder?
Okay, you go. And then
Thank
that's
you.
your phone.
Okay.
And that's fine.
Well, Mayor, you wanted to have fun, so we're having fun already.
Well, yes.
Okay. Tonight, I'm in front of you to, it looks like we have the wrong one open here.
Yep.
Okay. Let me see what I can do here.
Well, you want to jump on to 7? We'll come back to 6.
Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay,
Go ahead, do it.
okay.
We'll mix
so-
it up a little bit this evening. Why not?
Wow, the rule book's going right out the
Wow,
window.
really?
Well, relax over there. Relax over there. You
Relax
gotta-
over
Lisa has it completely in control here. So
Okay, so we're going to do number 7 before number 6. So we'll be talking about the Affordable Home Ownership Grant Program. And let me just go over the overview of the program. These were council's goals or what the program was based on. From 2015 to 2019, the average home sale price increased more than 25%, while per capita incomes only grew by 10%. The average home sale price in Moscow increased an additional 12.2% between 2019 and 2000. Benefits to the owners and the community. And the city of Moscow supports the development of affordable housing within Moscow and has established an affordable home ownership grant program. Under council direction, we held a workshop on October 25th where council approved the following allocations. Affordable Housing Program received an allocation of $150,000 from the City of Moscow, ARPA state and local fiscal recovery funds. On November 8th, staff presented to the Public Works Finance Committee a resolution adopting the proposed allocation, which is outlined in Exhibit A of the home ownership or affordable home ownership grant program. And on November 15th, City Council approved the resolution 2021-22 with the attached Exhibit A, which had the allocations in it. Oops, I pushed forward. Let's see where I'm going here. Okay, under the program, City Council intends to allocate the funding to the program each fiscal year, subject to availability. Funding can be used to leverage other grants and donations to support the construction of affordable housing. The goal is to allocate $50,000 annually to the program depending upon available funding. The annual appropriation will be placed within a designated capital fund where it will be retained and accumulated until all funds are approved and dispersed. Eligible organizations must be a non-housing project. The grant application process and eligible activities. Applications will be accepted October 1st of each year and will be honored on a first-come, first-served basis until the annual allocation has been obligated. The maximum award shall be $10,000 per housing unit unless otherwise approved by the City Council. And grant awards will be effective for 24 months from the date of approval. The eligible activities will include construction of new detached single-family homes, attached single-family homes, townhouses, and/or condominiums, or acquisition and rehabilitation renovation of existing detached single-family homes, attached single-family homes, townhouses, and/or condominiums, or as approved by City Council. The grant requirements and obligations and disbursements. Within the requirements as listed in the attached Exhibit A are requirements regarding household income. Household unit must meet affordable measures, and that's of the people that would be receiving the grant from the Affordable Housing Trust or the other nonprofit. The ratios for annual mortgage payments, the home must be owner occupied. The agency must also make sure that there is no discrimination, and the recipients, within that, there's guidelines for providing legal enforceable means, which means subsidy recapture, that the City of Moscow has a lien on the property so that the funds that is given to that home or that structure, if sold, can be returned, if sold, and then also the retention subsidy limits the future home sale amount to retain affordability within those homes. Grant disbursement or the resolution allocated the $150,000, and it's intended that these funds shall be matched by an annual funding of $50,000 per year in the city's annual budget, bringing the proposed annual affordable housing budget to $100,000 per year for the next 3 years. Following the approval of Resolution 2122, the city received letters from 2 local nonprofits requesting funding from the grant program. Habitat for Humanity is requesting assistance for 1 home, and the Moscow Affordable Housing Trust is requesting funds to support 5 homes. Staff has reviewed both of these requests, and I think their letters were included within your packet tonight. Based on these requests and the critical need for affordable housing, staff is recommending approval of both to assist with 6 homes within the city limits of Moscow. Staff is also recommending a grant funding allocation of $20,000 per home versus the $10,000 to address the immediate needs of the housing crisis in Moscow. These requests would distribute a total of $120,000, which would need to be obligated by December 31st, 2024, and fully dispersed no later than December 31st, 2026, as required under the ARPA regulations and included in the resolution. I just wanted to note that when we presented this to committee, we had talked about doing a different allocation of funding, and then we received comments from council. And so what we've done is the first 150,000 will become, or 120,000 will be strictly ARPA funds. And then the other funds that are put into the affordable housing program can accumulate and be rolled over for future use, since they don't have a date deadline on them to be used. So that was the only real change that we had from what was presented at committee, was where the allocation of the funding came from. And I'd be open for any questions you might have regarding staff's proposal or the items before you.
Gina?
I spoke with Mia earlier today, but I wanted to just have it on the record. On page 82 of our packet, in the letter of interest from the Affordable Housing Trust, there is a statement that says intended use, and it says funds will be part of the permanent subsidy retained. So I wanted to visit with Mia about whether or not that obligates us in any way.
And I visited with Gary about this. Sorry. I visited with Gary about this too. So although that's what Moscow Affordable Housing Trust put as their intended use, by passing this resolution, we are not committing to permanently subsidize on an annual basis a specific amount of money.
Okay, and they would not necessarily be annually eligible should they not follow all the rules, right?
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, they would have to meet the intent of the resolution. And again, I think the intent here is that they set up a separate vehicle for doing that. Not that it's obligating us in any way to continue to make subsidies or whatever. As you know, the resolution is open to any of those nonprofits that meet the requirements of the resolution. So there could be more rather than just Habitat and
Indeed.
Moscow Affordable Housing Trust,
And the resolution spells that out
clearly.
clearly.
Yeah.
So
I
our resolution is not binding for anything else that some other organization may or may not have. Gina,
okay.
that's how I see it.
That's what I needed
Exactly.
to hear. Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Elisa or anybody else?
No, I appreciate the staff responding to that discussion and request to take that all out of ARPA. I think that just provides a lot more flexibility with that deadline and our ability to roll over if there are any funds in the grant program from year to year, which we know we can't do with ARPA beyond a certain date. So thank you for that.
I just wanted to note, as you know, Bill's on vacation this week, but when he returns after the first of the year, we will draft a letter of proposed award, and those will be reviewed by Mia before they go out to make sure that we're meeting all the guidelines. And then once they're in a spot to start with a project, then there'll also be a document that will be written up that meets the guidelines that have been established by council in the resolution also.
I would make a motion to recommend approval to award $20,000 to Habitat for Humanity and $100,000 to the Moscow Affordable Housing Trust, subject to the guidelines and requirements of resolution number 2021-22, including Exhibit A, City Moscow Affordable Home Ownership Grant Program, and resolution 2021-25 requirements of the American Rescue Plan Act.
Second. It's all right.
We got it first, Gina.
It does not matter, but
Okay.
I'm happy to.
Gina and Sandra came in at about the same time. Okay, we have a motion by Brandy and a second by Gina to approve to award $20,000 for Habitat for Humanity and $100,000 to the Moscow Affordable Housing Trust, subject to the guidelines and requirements of resolution number 2021-22, including Exhibit A, City Moscow Affordable Home Ownership Grant Program, and resolution 2021-25, requirements for American Rescue Plan Act. And I will start the roll with Ann.
Aye.
Brandy.
Aye.
Art.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
And Gina.
Aye.
Okay, well, let's go to number 6. Now, do we need to have Corey out here to help you get going on that, or are we set?
There it is.
There it
Sure, I
is.
think I'm good to go.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Well, Elisa is going to do the City of Moscow American Rescue Plan Act Small Business and Nonprofit COVID-19 Recovery Grant Program. Thank you,
Okay.
Elisa.
Okay, the funding objectives, and we're looking at pretty much the same outline that we had from the Public Works Finance Committee last week. We have updated it as outlined in the, I think you guys received an email regarding the changes. We made sure that those were all placed in here tonight. Treasury's launching this much needed relief to support urgent COVID-19 response efforts and to continue to decrease the spread of virus and bring pandemic under control. To replace lost revenue for eligible state, local, territorial, and tribal governments to strengthen support for vital public services and to help retain jobs. Support immediate economic stabilizations for households and businesses, and address the systemic, public health and economic challenges that have contributed to the unequal impact of the pandemic. I'm going to go ahead and put all these slides up here real quick, or all of these. I think you've all seen these before, but we know that Moscow had an ARPA allocation of $5,528,399. We've received the first payment. The second payment will be coming in June of, the first payment came in June, and the second payment should be coming within 12 months of that date. The funding must be obligated by December 31st of 2024 and expended by December 31st, 2026. And the obligation means that we must have that funding designated and contracts are signed and have been awarded. There was a council workshop held on October 25th where a council approved the following allocations. And as you can see, small business and nonprofit assistance, which we're addressing here tonight, and then the other projects for stormwater and water. As we look back, also staff presented a small business and nonprofit assistance proposal to council on November 8th, at which time committee expressed a desire to expand opportunity to support the community nonprofit organizations and provide social service, more assistance to the social services within the community. So staff went back and redrafted the proposal and separated it out between small business and nonprofit, and also added assistance for community and social service nonprofits. Staff presented that proposal to Public Works Finance Committee on December 13th, and based upon council comments, minor changes were made and incorporated into the resolution. We're still looking at eligible entities being small businesses under 50 employees. And then the eligible expenses include direct costs, operational costs, and other operational costs. It's expanded there based upon what type of business they're in. And also we're looking at where there are decreases in operational expenses and revenues and those types of things. In order for to be eligible for the operational cost reimbursement, the application or the applicant must show the following documentation: 3 years of financial statements showing a demonstrated revenue reduction. We also will ask for bank statements for 2021 and 2022 to date from the application, tax returns for the last 3 years, a personal financial statement, and nonprofits must be able to provide their 990 application, which is their tax return for the prior 3 years. Now, if we have a nonprofit that hasn't been in operation for 3 years, we'll just ask for what they have available, a W-9, and they'll also have a disclosure statement, which will include that we can ask for additional information based upon what type of assistance they're requesting. As with the other funding, the expense period will be 2021 and 2022. The application process, we're hoping to have the program open initially for 90 days. We'll see how many applications that we receive. If not, we'll go ahead and expand it. The applications will be reviewed on a first come, first served basis, and we will review them and have them reviewed every 2 weeks. And then there will also be a process for reconsideration if say an application is denied and they can submit additional information. And it can be reconsidered then. And there's a process for that also outlined in the program. Grant award limits are $15,000 unless otherwise approved by the city council. And then for the community and social service nonprofit grant program, of new or expanded programs designed in response to meet the COVID-19 pandemic. So as I said before, there's these are listed out in the program, and they've not changed since we presented to those to committee. There is a couple of changes though coming up. We did, as requested, add additional wording for addressing food insecurity, and also reworded a little bit under the for behavioral health. And there's the nutrition assistance that was requested. The eligible entities are 501c3s, and that's a pretty strict designation there, so we're not looking at foundations. These need unless otherwise approved by council, because some of the nonprofits here in our community don't have employees. They have lots of volunteers. So we'll bring those forward for that's the case. The grant awards for the nonprofits have been increased to $25,000, and that will also depend upon available funding. The city reserves the right to only fund a portion of the award, depending upon the budget and the proposal. There will be a grant agreement that will be required to be signed by each of the nonprofits, as will there be with the other disbursements, even if they're not nonprofit for the businesses. The eligible expense period, we modified this to be from December 31st, 2024 to March 31st, 2024 to give them that an additional quarter, and that would give them a full 2 years. And then we expanded the timeline for having all funds expended. We give them an additional 3 months there also. And then we updated the wording, and we changed some of the wording on what has to be submitted for the application. This part right here under the review committee remains the same. Established under the review committee will be a deputy city supervisor and myself, and then an appointed person from finance. The city council will review and approve all of the awards, and the funds will be dispersed within 30 days of the award approval. As with all grant funds, we have compliance. That's kind of what I do. And so we'll have forms and different things that will require the grantees to meet the requirements. And that will also be part of my job with the grant division, and also with assistance and review from the finance department. Staff prepared a updated draft program resolution for council's review and consideration, and that included also the updated. So what we're looking at tonight is approval of the Moscow American Rescue Plan Small Business and Nonprofit COVID Recovery Grant Program Resolution.
Okay.
And if you wanted me to go into any more specifics about the updates, I do have those highlighted here. I think, Gary, did you send that out to council?
No, I did not get a chance to,
Okay.
but all of it, in reviewing the direction of committee, all of those corrections or adjustments were integrated into.
And council can ask questions about that as
Yes.
well, Lisa, if there's
Yes.
any questions from, Ann, did you have?
Yeah, there was one that I was hoping to see that doesn't look like has changed, which is some specification about the review committee, just specifying that it would be staff. Was that discussed?
The
It
question,
was discussed, and I think that was a conversation between Bill and Gary of keeping it just internally.
yeah,
You have a question, Gary?
yeah, in talking to Bill about it, we discussed who would be on that, and it wasn't supposed to be any competition. The staff is just reviewing it for compliance with the resolution. So once it gets sent on, staff is not making a value judgment about it or anything else. So there's no politics, special interest, any of that sort of thing. Then it comes to the entire council for their decision. So it was just a cleaner, make sure it meets the resolution, and then it comes wholesale to the council with any qualifications or anything that staff has picked out that council needs to take a look at. But it wasn't intended to be like a grants program, say like the United Way does or something like that. Staff is not making the decision about funding or not, just whether they comply with the council's intent in the resolution.
Great, because I think you clarified that somebody did, at least at the committee meeting, that the full thing, the full packet is just passed along. So, okay, that makes sense to me then.
I mean, we will need to edit like certain, social security numbers or EINs, those types of things, but we'll provide all the information that is required.
Brandy.
Yep. The item 7 grant report it's on page 69 of the packet, under the small business nonprofit. So it says, it will be due annually each year through 2025. If someone has completely expended that by the end of 2023, say before that, are they still required to file annual reports
Well,
through
I think what we're
2025?
looking for is to see how that business is doing and possibly then be able to come back and report to council the benefit of the program. So if the business has been able to, survive COVID and the grant funds has helped them and they're continuing to build or grow, then we'd certainly like to report that back.
Sounds good.
So
Thank
that's
you.
why
Yep.
we update it on an annual basis. So when we're done with all of the COVID funding and it's been dispersed, we can do a full comprehensive report to council on where the money went and the benefits, job creation, those types of things.
Okay, very good. And you had another?
Yeah, I do have another one. I don't know if you all have talked about this yet, but I'm wondering a couple things. If the application will be online, and then what we think our mechanism for distributing it and making it known to the public will be.
So we have looked at several different models on how that has worked. And as I said, it's end of year. We've been really busy trying to get everything done. So right after the first of the year, we'll be deciding on a mechanism to do that. I would like for it to be an online submittal. However, we may at first need to do a paper application just so we can get rolling. But we certainly, I think, will be able to have an online portal for that and be able to accept things that way where people can upload documents and those types of things, which would be the easiest way to do it.
That's helpful. I'm just thinking through ways we can be supportive and helping get the word out too.
If
Trying to
I may,
anticipate that.
Gary?
Yeah, we're kind of caught in that situation where some people are almost all online. We've got a robust social media program, but there are some people who want to see it in a newspaper. So we'll have to do as broad of a distribution as we do for our public hearings and such like that.
Sandra?
Just one thing. And first, gosh, thanks for all the reworking on this. It's I think it hits a lot closer to what we were thinking about originally. And so I know early on, everyone kind of had wide eyes like, wow, I thought we had this and you want us to completely redo it. So gosh, thanks, because it looks really good. My one question is, and I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, but when we talk about a first come, first serve basis and reviewing every couple of weeks, what happens if maybe you get a submission that's like, it's okay, but maybe you don't want to approve it right then, but you don't want to disapprove it either. Do you say no, apply again later, or have you thought of that system on how to keep those that are like, okay, but we don't want to say yes just yet?
So I think we're going to try to keep it as black and white as they can. Either they meet the criteria, they don't. And if they don't, then we'll go back to them and say, when you submit this additional documentation, you'll go back in the pool for that next 2-week grant. I think we just have to keep it kind of as clear cut as we can.
Okay.
So that would be my goal. And if, when they come in and maybe they're missing one of the tax returns or the bank statement, it's still going to be a phone call to ask for that, not an email or, we'll try to do our best to streamline it, and make it as easy as we can. And say if we're, it's first come, first serve, say if they can get me that documentation real quick and I can get it in the packet and make it available to you, I'll certainly, expedite that the best I can so that people don't have to wait.
Gina, did you?
I did, and I don't know that I necessarily need you to re-edit or edit again or
Okay.
anything, except that I've had a couple, 3 or 4 questions about whether or not this is available outside of Moscow. And the statement about located within the city of Moscow is kind of buried down in the eligibility. Is there a more, like maybe in our social media or something? I think it needs to be very, very clear that this is City of Moscow for City of Moscow business. 'Cause-
Yes, and also we will make sure that the application itself is very clear on what
Good.
the eligibility criteria are and what is required.
Good.
And so I think that would clear that up off
It
the
is
top.
my least favorite question of 2021.
I bet.
Absolute least favorite.
Unless
But
they
thank you if you
live in
if you
Moscow.
would.
Art, did you have something?
Nope, I didn't have anything.
I have one other
Okay,
question. So assuming that this is approved, how quickly is it ready to go as far as people starting to apply?
I think I addressed that under Councilmember Zabala's question, but we have really been pushing to get this approved by this council.
Yep.
You guys have all worked really hard on this, and it has been something that you're very passionate about. So we did our best to get you to here right now, this last meeting of the year. I know that you will not be with us, and so we want to make sure that all of the things that you heard from your constituents were included. I will have to say, though, we don't have that application ready. We will be working on it expediently right after the first of the year. And I'm counting on my new supervisor to help me with that. And we have, Bill will be back. And we have, like I said, a lot of examples. We just need to boil it down to what's the best fit for our Moscow people, our Moscow residents. So, I think within 2 weeks after the first of the year, I'd like
That's
to be ready to
pretty
roll with it.
great.
So,
That's really great. And I
would
appreciate.
say that's
Paper,
probably
please,
a
but-
little
Yeah.
aggressive.
Well, I see,
Yeah.
I think
I
Cody
mean, I
is,
think the answer is like pretty soon.
but
You're
yeah,
almost
I
there.
mean, the businesses can see what's here in front of them. They can start getting ready for that,
Right.
and
And
we'll do
start
the best
preparing.
we can.
well, I see Cody was writing notes down, so I'm sure he's gonna be on top of it here.
Well, I really do appreciate you getting this in this year, and I think we all are passionate about it. So I also want to echo what Sandra said of the changes, and this is something that we've been, I think, all trying to figure out how we can really funnel some of these funds to our nonprofits that have been impacted. So you've all done a very good job, and I appreciate that. And I would like to recommend approval of the City of Moscow American Rescue Plan Act Small Business and Nonprofit COVID-19 Recovery Grant Program Resolution.
Second.
Okay. We've got a motion by Brandy and a second by Sandra to approve the City of Moscow American Rescue Plan Act Small Business and Nonprofit COVID-19 Recovery Grant Program Resolution. I will start with Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Art,
Aye.
Brandy,
Aye.
and Ann.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Elisa, very much.
Just wanted to make one final comment. I have a few different emails that come to me, like grants manager and those types of things. We will be setting up a separate email that is just for this program. And so we'll also let people know what that is, but then that will be able to go to all the people on the review committee so that they have access also.
And Elisa, thank you. Staff and this council has been very, very in tune to this for a while, and they've done a lot of excellent work, and staff's done an excellent job on this as well. So thank you very much for your work, the efforts on this.
Thank you. And I want to thank you also, Councilmember
Okay.
Sullivan, for being with us and for being so passionate about this. I know the business community relies upon you to bring their message forth, and we've tried to do our best to make sure that we've gotten everything in here. And I also want to wish you well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to move on to item number 8, Records Management Policies and Procedure Code Amendment. We have got Mia Batista with us this evening. Hello, Mia.
Hello, Mayor, Council, thank you. I do not have a presentation. This should be pretty brief. If you recall, in 2015, City Council adopted Title I, Chapter 10 of the Moscow City Code titled Records Management policies and procedures, and that was written in compliance with Idaho Code at that time. Since that was written, the Idaho Code was amended and enacted the Idaho Public Records Act, which is under Title 74. And so the changes proposed in this code amendment addresses the changes made to the Public Records Act under Title 74. These are all pretty minor, but were necessary edits. One under Section 10.7 just made a specific reference to the records retention resolution that's adopted by City Council every year. Section 10-8 made a notation adding that the city clerk shall follow the classification and retention of municipal records pursuant to Idaho Code 5907. And then Section 10-14 is specific to made changes regarding the photographic and digital media. Again, this is all just in compliance with those code amendments based on the enactment of the Public Records Act under Title 74. And then the last one that was changed was Section 10-16, the disclosure of public records. Again, all of this is in compliance with the Public Records enactment under Title 74. So all pretty minor, but necessary. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Questions for Nina?
I would like to move that we approve the ordinance amending Moscow City Code Title I, Chapter 10 of the Records Management Policies and Procedures under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Gina and a second by Sandra to approve the ordinance amending Moscow City Code Title I, Chapter 10 of the Records Management Policies and Procedures under the suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings that it be read by title and published by summary. I will start to roll with Ann,
Aye.
Brandy,
Aye.
Art,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
and Gina.
Aye.
Okay, we have an ordinance. And that ordinance number is 2021-21. An ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the amendment of Title I, Chapter 10 on records management's policies and procedures, providing the provision of this ordinance be deemed severable, and providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from the date of its passage, approval, and publication according to law. And with that, we will move on to item number 9, which is Pullman Moscow Regional Airport Terminal Financing and Proposal Resolution, and I like to call it the Moscow Pullman Regional Airport. So with this, we have Gary Reiner to explain this. Gary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're here once again talking about the terminal project at the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport. First, I want to preface this by saying that the work that was done on the American Rescue Plan and CARES Act by this council over the past years is nothing short of miraculous when you have now, with the passage of the resolution, the affordable housing and those sorts of things, there should be full distribution of both of those funds here within the next 3 years, which is pretty phenomenal. So, and this just kind of goes along with that. The other thing that's been taking a ton of time is the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport. From about 2014, 2015, the airport runway realignment project has been going on. At last count, I believe it was a $154 million project, or 158, I can't remember, but it's a huge project. That project had local match for the FAA funding, the Federal Aviation Administration funding, in the amount of just over $10 million. We got a very favorable rate, or a match rate, from the FAA. And so that project is nearing completion at this time. What it will allow is that we will retain our commercial airport status. As you know, the airport is one of 7 Idaho commercial airports, even though it's located in the state of Washington. And that runway realignment will allow that designation to continue, as well as allowing larger cargo and passenger airplanes to be able to land. So with that comes more passengers, more frequent flights. We have a flight to Boise now. We'll likely see more flights to Seattle, and we're working on a flight to Denver, or a hub airport as well. More people through the airport means that the terminal is going to be stressed. The terminal that we have out there, as you know, is fairly small. It was constructed a couple of decades ago for just very small commuter airline. Since that time, we're looking at it, and there was the airport, Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport Board formed a terminal advisory committee to look at potential designs for that terminal, and they have worked hard to bring that in. It came in at a cost of over $52 million. The trouble with terminal financing is it isn't like a runway, because not everything is related to airport operations or passenger operations. So things like vendors, parking lots, administration offices, concessionaires, rental car agencies, those sorts of things, any facilities that relate to those is not eligible for any FAA participation. Now, the part that is eligible are those that are related to the actual transportation of passengers, and there's also a very expensive ramp where large planes can be stored in front of the terminal. So all that being said, $52 million was more than we had to spend on it, even if there was a certain amount of local participation that was anticipated by our co-sponsor, the City of Pullman. As I failed to mention, City of Moscow and City of Pullman are the sponsors, co-sponsors under the FAA for Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport. So at $52 million, it was too expensive of a bite. We had approximately $32 million, I think it was right at $32 million that had been designated some CARES Act funding, FAA funding, so on and so forth, which left a gap of, I believe, between $18 and $20 million that would have had to be raised locally. When you consider that the runway realignment project, we were able to garner about $10 million of local participation. $20 million seemed a little big stretch. So essentially, the airport board, the TAC went back to work. The airport board went to work with Mead and Hunt, the architects on the project, and they cut the scope of that project to about $43 million. That was with the airport board's direction that there should be no more than $10 million of local participation in it. That is what the airport board thought that they could raise from the sponsors and other participants. So you saw on November 8th during the workshop, we had Mead and Hunt. Tony Bean, the executive director of the airport, came in, gave a presentation, and showed that out of the $10 million that needed to be raised locally, they had contingencies and those sorts of things that they could get the price to where the cost of construction down to where, with the funding that the airport already had, FAA funding, et cetera, and $10 million of local participation, that they could construct that $43 million structure. So at that, they reported that out of that $10 million, approximately $3.9 million was comprised of airport savings that they had. It also included some CARES Act money that had been granted the airport under that program as well, leaving approximately $6.1 million to be raised locally. At that workshop, council considered whether to proceed with $2 million of participation, and essentially indicated that they would challenge the City of Pullman or match the City of Pullman if the City of Pullman also put in $2 million as co-sponsor of the airport, that there would be local match raised in order to be able to fund the construction, and that the City of Pullman would also agree to share tax revenues raised on airport property in an impact area around the airport that was experiencing increased development because of the improvements, half of which the City of Moscow is responsible for at the airport. I attended a city council meeting on November 30th with the Pullman City Council, and they indicated that they did like the project, that they would match the City of Moscow's $2 million, and that one of the other conditions was that we were able to fund the $2.5 million for our participation in the runway realignment project by using some interfund borrowing, whereas we would borrow money from accumulations in certain funds. We would pay that fund a reasonable interest rate for the use of those funds, and we would utilize that to make our payments, and then we would pay it back, those funds back at the rate of interest with funds that had been raised through council's original taking of foregone property taxes in 2015. Now, I say foregone property taxes because foregone property taxes are those taxes that have been authorized but not taken by the city. City has to pass a resolution in order to access those, and that allows us to go above the 3% cap that has been limited for property tax increases. Once that foregone is taken, then it's no longer foregone. It comes into the general fund every year. And I know in the backup, Brandy had a question is, why do I keep calling it foregone? The reason I call it foregone is because we have structured the payback to be used. The payback will utilize those originally foregone dollars to pay it back. Council can choose to pay it back earlier using other general fund monies as well. So what you have in your packet is a schedule. There are two things. The first, council already passed their resolution, so on and so forth. We also have an additional resolution in your packet, and I'm going to go through our, thanks, Cody, you did that really well.
You gotta get the hang of it over there.
Okay, this print on this slide isn't very good. It's what's in your packet. I made a couple of changes, and Corey showed me how this works. It's gonna be really cool if it works. Highlights it. I'm going to talk about the original airport realignment project. And if you look at the beginning, first payment that was paid in 2015, there was an initial payment made of $500,000 out of the general fund. That payment being $500,000 was 1/5 of our original obligation of $2.5 million. So you can see there are 5 payments, and then the payback starts going. And that highlighted piece or line is that original amount of foregone taxes, which after 2015, they were just coming into the general fund. Okay, so when looking at this second terminal project, we looked at it and said, can we replicate that same thing that has worked so well? And the last payment will be made on the runway realignment project in fiscal 23. So at that time, last payment will be made. The investments will have been paid off to those accumulated funds. So we look to follow that same sort of program for the terminal project. So how would we make that initial payment out of the general fund? Well, as I explained to committee, the amount you see there is $666,667. That represents 1/3 of the $2 million obligation. We have in fiscal 2021, we have appropriated funding, appropriated revenues, and appropriated expenditures. And we managed the budget in such a way that we took in all of our revenues, but did not make all of our expenditures. In other words, through management, through other means, we had actually budgeted revenues in excess of expenditures, and in reality, our expenditures weren't as much as the revenues we brought in. So that yielded about $1 million of what we call anticipated fund balance. Unanticipated fund balance, typically, when we close the fiscal year, we allocate those funds to general fund, capital, information systems capital, fleet fund capital, so on and so forth. And it sits there until council can budget it the following year. So the money doesn't go anywhere. It just gets assigned to a capital account. Well, in this case, the suggestion, staff's recommendation is we take $666,667 of that and use it to make the first payment on our $2 million obligation for the terminal in the current fiscal year. In other words, before September 30th of 2022. That only leaves us having to fund 2 years of $666,667 payments. We would not make any payment in fiscal 23 because we're paying back the runway, the final payment of the runway realignment project. And then, as you can see, in 2024, we would finance it by borrowing from one of the accumulated funds in the amount of $449,952, plus that amount of taxes that had originally been taken in 2015. So what that would do, if it goes all the way out to the end, the last payment would be made in 2030 if the only revenue used to pay those funds back was that $216,000. Now, council can choose to do something else. And the way this is set up is that other than this initial payment, the council and the city supervisor's finance director can move forward with some other subsequent payments if it's determined that you wish to use unanticipated fund balance in the future, if you want to go ahead, make a quicker payment so you cut down on the interest paid to these accumulated funds, you're free to do that as well. So we're leaving as much flexibility as we can. So this resolution, in fact, leaves that decision up to the council to be made in the future. So with that, I'd certainly stand for any questions.
Questions for Gary?
So on this, the top little chart there, am
Yes.
I reading this correctly? Why does the interest continue to have to be paid all the way through 2030 what am I missing there?
Well, because you've still got an outstanding balance from your accumulated
Okay.
fund. We're not paying that to Pullman. We're paying that to the enterprise fund or the accumulated.
Okay.
So we
Okay,
keep
so
that.
all those
All those payments
foregone,
stay with the
what's
city.
indicating the foregone are paying back what was borrowed from
Exactly.
the enterprise funds.
Precisely.
Okay.
Precisely.
As a follow-up to that, why does that number fluctuate as much as it does over those 4 years?
Which
I guess
one?
5 years, the interest in the
Um,
proposal?
Well, you'd have to ask the finance director, but she went through it and she ran a interest model all the way through. So at the beginning, there would be no interest owed up until we made that second payment in 2024. So it starts off low, and then 2025 is where we haven't made any payments back at that time. We've used the taxes to actually make part of the payment to the city of Pullman. So after that, you can see it changes year by year. And it's because of the balance that is owed. And again, that is a 1.2% investment. Whereas when we did the runway realignment project, interest rates were a little higher, so it was 2.5%. But we checked with our banks and investment people, and 1.2 is the going rate, if you will.
It's just a little typo, but on the realignment project total should be 2.5 million, right? Keep going over to there you go.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
That's all I have.
Okay, so
I can't tell you how many times I counted 5 of those and
Yeah, I-
kept coming up with 2.5.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I think what they did was that was 2 million that was actually borrowed.
Yeah.
Because 500,000 was coming out of the general fund to start with, so there wasn't a $2.5 million loan. It was actually turned out to be $2 million.
That's what that 2 million is for, I believe.
Yep, you're right. And there's $100,000 worth of interest. But
Okay.
yeah, and what would happen mechanically if council moves forward with this resolution tonight, excuse me, I will advise the city of Pullman, the mayor is authoring a letter to send over to Mayor Johnson. This resolution does say that continued participation of the city is contingent upon all of the factors that council had originally authorized, including the tax revenue sharing area. And I've been assured by Mike Urban, the Pullman City Administrator, and speaking for Mayor Johnson, that they're interested in moving ahead, but they wanted to have that conversation at the same time that they are preparing the deeds to deed Moscow half of the property of the airport as tenants in common. And Mia and Laura McAloon, the Pullman City Attorney, are working on that.
Grant's got another question?
Do they need to have the full $10 million match secured by the end of this year from all the other entities?
Yes, the 6.1 million. Yes, and you've probably been reading that the University of Idaho has obligated to $400,000, WSU $600,000, our own Latah County $160,000. We have reason to believe that there may be some private contributors as well. Whitman County has 0.09 economic development funds that should be a little bit over $400,000. So we're getting extremely close.
And also in addition to that, Glenn Johnson and Tony Bean met with Port of Whitman
Yes.
this week. And so there should be more information coming on that, but they were pretty comfortable with that as well, Brandy. So we're in really terrific shape on that $10 million amount.
Yeah, and again, the way, if council approves this, we will be, well, I won't be, but somebody will be bringing to you in the open budget process this $666,667 item in the open budget process, since it was not appropriated in the original FY22 budget.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion if I could.
go ahead.
I move that we approve the proposed resolution and financing proposal for participation in the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport Terminal Project.
Seconded.
Take it, Art.
Okay, we have a motion by Gina and a second by Art to approve the proposed resolution and financing proposal for participation in the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport Terminal Project. I will start to roll with Ann,
Aye.
Brandy,
Aye.
Art,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
and Gina.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, Gary. We will go into reports from everybody prior to, we're going to have an executive session this evening, but I'm going to go to reports first. Before we do that, I'll start with you, Sandra.
Great. I had 2 meetings and they did them on the same day with only an hour in between, and they moved the sites. So I felt like I was zipping all over town on Tuesday, but I got to them.
Got him. Nice.
Pathways met first. And I think one thing that really stood out more than anything, usually they do a bicycle tour every year. And while that's been successful, there's been some talk about trying to do some other things as well. And so they're either going to work on incorporating a walking tour and then possibly also a bike tour. They haven't quite decided if they want to do both or not, but they definitely want to get a walking tour out there to see if they can get more people involved. So that's a great thing. And then they started working already on their goals and hopes for the next year. So it was good to see them jump along. And then I zipped all the way over across town because Moscow's so big it took me about 2.5 minutes to get to the HERC, and where I met with the Sustainable Environment Commission. And gosh, they went through many different things, but again, really looking at what they want to do in the future. You know, the immediate future. We talked about the different climate things going on that we're well versed on, that we'll continue to be well versed on, and they're working on that. Gave a lengthy report about an event a couple had gone to in Boise and trying to bring back some of the things they learned there to here, but I'll just keep that until later days to find out how Victoria can say yes until we know more about that. So Victoria is also on that commission, so that's why I said her name. But you know, they're working hard, and I really appreciate the great questions they ask and trying to make sure that not just our city, but our whole region is trying to do the best practices they can. So,
Very good. Gina.
Thank you. I had 2 meetings this past 2 weeks, the first of which was the Transportation Commission. And we introduced our new Deputy City Supervisor to the group, and they were all thrilled to see him. So it was a nice moment. And then the meat of the meeting, other than obviously meeting Cody, were some grant, the Child Pedestrian Safety Grant, the Transportation Alternatives Grant, and the Local Highway Safety Improvement. So the TAP and the LSIP. You hear those acronyms, you know what we're talking about. And they were just discussing some of the potential intersections and areas of our community that they thought would be good as far as these grant monies applied. It was a good meeting, lasted the whole hour, and I was sort of tired afterwards. The second meeting that I attended was, in fact, the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee. And the biggest piece of news from that is that our executive manager, Corey Woodley, is leaving us.
Oh.
She will be taking a job with the Department of Natural Resources out of Minnesota. So I think she's landed in a really cold, beautiful
I
place.
think she's from there.
She is from there. We spoke about that at length and put together a transition team of which I am a part to help figure out how this all goes smoothly and then to work on job description and hiring and that sort of thing. We talked as well about groundwater monitoring and the network there, and there were some data logger issues. Yeah. I'm acting like I know what that means, but it was serious in that 3 of them actually died. And so there is an incomplete data set. Does not impact the water alternatives report that we're all waiting on. It's just informational and that kind of stuff you got to care about when you're on PBAC. We also had an update on some with the Palouse water alternatives. They anticipate that they will be hitting the deadline of winter of 22, like we have discussed. And they talked again about some contract extensions with the geological survey, things like that. So the biggie is that our executive manager is leaving, but there were other housekeeping kind of things, and that'll be the last one of the year, except for all the transition stuff.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Gene.
Mhm.
Art?
Yeah, Farmers Market Commission met back on the 7th, and they have already started work on next year's farmer market, putting together a schedule for the market vendors orientation, and also getting ready to put forth another market assessment, which is just a survey of how many people show up, what the vendors are doing, how to make a snapshot of what's going on, but take it at the same 3 points each year so you don't get any fluctuations because of football games or something like that. They're also hoping that U of I and WSU can avoid football overlaps to the extent possible, specifically homecoming. And so they're prepping up for that and getting ready for another round of festivity and frolic up and down Main Street. The fire department met and discussed in quite some depth the impact of how to limit paramedic compensation to keep them under the limit of turning them into full-time city employees, which has great tax implications for the IRS and the city. So they're busy working on that and what the difference is between a Class A call and a Class B call, which involves sticking needles in people or not. And it sets up 2 different rates for the people who get taken away by the ambulances. Also looking at not getting sideways with the city on city vehicular use versus volunteers. So they have to incorporate the city policies on vehicle use, which currently isn't part of their policies. So there's going to have to be some training going on there to stay clear of conflict with the city. And I'll leave the frivolities from the employee potluck festivities to you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
So that's what I had.
Okay, thank you, Art. Brandy?
All right, I'll be brief. The Arts Commission was canceled and the Urban Renewal Agency was canceled. And so I was going to also say the police station tour and the staff holiday party will leave to the mayor, who I'm sure will comment on both of those.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
And all three of my meetings were canceled as well.
Well, you can, 'tis the season, it's that time of year too. Well, I do have a few things. The first one I want to talk about is a holiday parade that we had in the lighting on December the 9th. It was terrific. Art was one of the judges, as well as Haley Lewis. We had a good time, and it was,
Judgmental is always good.
well, Art and Haley did a great job. I was just kind of having some fun with them. So as we go along, it was snowing and kind of a wet rain, but we had quite a crowd. There were several thousand people out there. It was a lot of fun. And people were, last year we canceled it because of the COVID. And so our folks in our town are just excited about being able to get out and do something and getting closer and closer and being back to normal, which is very, very nice. We had an airport board meeting on the 13th last Monday night, and that was good. We did that over at the Hilltop in Pullman, talked about a number of different things. And of course, Art was there as well. It took him in so he can be introduced to the rest of the board that he'd been to the one in November as well. And actually it was a good thing that Art was there, because he was going to have to run the one and chair it in January.
My first meeting as vice chair, I get to be the chair.
So the good thing is at least he went to a couple of them, so he kind of got a chance to be ordained into how things work, and so that'll be fine. And with that, just getting back a little bit about the terminal financing, we're really looking good on this thing as far as getting it done. And of course, we did a presentation to Schweitzer on Friday. They asked us for a presentation, so both Glenn Johnson, myself, as well as Tony Bean was over there. And gave them the rundown on how things work. So it'll be kind of interesting. There's some other business ventures involved. Paul Kimmel's been huge in helping with that endeavor. And so we'll hear directly from what Whitman County and the Port of Whitman comes pretty soon. You'll probably hear that, Art, in the January meeting, but we're moving forward with that. And of course, the police department opening was terrific. Man, we just had hundreds of people going through, and it was very nice. And it was great to see so many excited officers all the way from Chief right down all the way through. And boy, the men and women looked great in their blue, and they were having a good time, and it was very well received. And that bond, and one of the things that BJ Swanson had said that told us in a meeting that we had Wednesday, that bond we got for 1.7%, which saved our taxpayers $500,000. She said that was probably the best bond that hit in the state of Idaho. And we may never see that kind of a rate again. I mean, it was absolutely terrific. And she said, she talked about St. Luke's had just put out I think it was $28 million bond, and it was for 2.24%. So it turns out very well for our citizens. Anyway, that was a terrific fun thing, and they were starting to move their furniture in starting last Friday, and so in the next few weeks it'll happen. I understand that one of the big things is taking a big antenna off the police station here and mounting it on top of that. Hopefully they won't drill any holes in the roof, so when they do it, that's the only thing I thought about on the thing, is they'll get it done right. Oh, and the real fun event was on December 17th. We had the carolers from Russell School, the third graders, which we had, I don't know, probably 120 or 30 of them. And I love it when the kids are jumping around and we give them some candy canes so they can go back and get really wound up before the teachers turn them loose. It's one of my favorite things. And one kid said to me, I said, well, Santa's coming, so you better be good. And he says, nope, I don't have to. The presents are already under the tree. And it's so much fun when kids say, I said, well, whoa, what are you talking about? You still better be good. Somebody can come and take them away from you, kid. So I said, I'm not going to give you this candy cane unless you say you're going to be good. So I had a little bit of fun with them, but it is so much. It's exciting with little kids. They get so excited and they sing well, and it's always kind of a hoot. Again, last year we couldn't do that. So it's kind of fun to get back in the groove on that. With that, hey, Gary, I'll turn it over to you. You have any reports for us?
Yes. First of all, we, apropos the police station, as you indicated, we've got about 500 pieces that are being constructed in the police station for furniture and all that sort of thing. So we have extended the date that we need to vacate out of the current police station, which the sale to the University of Idaho will be delayed until February 4th. So that is to give us a chance to get out of there And we have a whole bunch of old furniture, desks, things like that, that for some reason the university doesn't want. So, and if the police don't want it either, you can imagine why they probably don't want it. So anyway, so that's been extended to the 4th, so you won't see things happening there. We did have our holiday potluck on the 17th as well. Lots of fun, lots of people there. It's the first time we've been able to have that in a couple of years. The Employee Advisory Committee did a great job. We had fun with it, had some employee giveaways, that sort of thing, canned food drive. Anyway, it was a really good time. I was pretty happy. All of my kids and my grandchildren came down as a one final shot. So that was good. It was a good time. And with that, the mayor and I were just talking a little bit, chewing the
This is
fat,
a
if you will, before the
Fun
meeting.
event here.
And he asked me, he said, how many meetings have you sat through
Numbers.
in 30 years? Well, Lori and I used to sit here in a boring meeting and we'd tally it up. Only the boring.
Well, now that I know that, Gary, and this is my last one where I can.
There you go. So it amounts to 780 council meetings.
Jeez.
And we used to have Public Works Finance and Administrative Committee every Monday, not just every other Monday back in the day. Even on council days, we'd have those meetings. And that amounts to over 1,100 committee meetings, not counting any of the workshops, retreats, and various and sundry other meetings we have. So quite a few. So you guys are going to hang around a while, get used to it.
So,
Anyway, thank you.
okay. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. That's a lot of meeting, folks.
And what do you mean boring?
Yeah, well.
It hasn't happened for years.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session per Idaho Code 74-206(1) and F. And this meeting will not reconvene once that meeting is over with.
So moved.
Second, and I need to take a roll on this. I'll start with Ann.
Aye.
Brandy.
Aye.
Art.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
And Gina.
Aye.
So very well. Thank you, everybody. 8:21. We will close this portion of it. Thank you all. Merry